Hi, this is Steve. Welcome to Thousand Year Homes. So what you're seeing here is a video journal that I have that I'm using to construct my new house. So I had bought my forever home, right? My retirement home here in Central Texas, a little town called Georgetown, just up the road. And it was a premium home, and the time we bought it was about 15 years old or so, not very old at all. And really loved the home, loved the layout, and my partner and I were so engaged by this home. But down through the years, various things started to happen with the house, and I mean, it's just 15 years old. She and I both re-leveled the house because it started sinking, which of course put cracks in the foundation and cracks in the roof and cracks around the door. We replaced all of the plumbing. Had to have tunnelers come under the house and tunnel it. Now this is not a 100-year-old home. This is a 15-year-old home. So it really got me thinking about longevity of houses, and if modern houses have to be thrown away. And we see the repeated here in America, everything's built the same strip mall, the same corner gas station, the same track homes that we're building. In certain places, there's still a little flavor, and some cities put some breaks around the mundane and make people build classically constructed homes. But here in Texas, it's build, 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 baby. And so we end up with a lot of houses that aren't going to last 1,000 years. In fact, my house honestly didn't last 20 years before it needed a major renovation. So, around year 18, she and I started talking. Another thing that was occurring all the time was power outages. I didn't care for them. I didn't like them. Here in Texas, we have our own power system, and our politicians brag that it's independent. Well, that also means that it's a single point of failure, and it fails all the time. And we can't buy power from the East Coast and West Coast grid because they deliberately engineered it to not do such a thing. We can't sell power either. This is a little construct of greed. And so my house is losing power all the time. The foundations already needed reconstruction. The plumbing's already fallen apart in the back bathroom. Cracks that need to be repaired. And so, and then came the storm of last year, as well as COVID. And I tell you, it just, I wanted more. I wanted more out of life than what I currently had. And this was a beautiful house. And in fact, I went ahead and measured out the floor plan because I might build it again. But I want to build a house that'll last 1,000 years, that house. And of course, I won't last 1,000 years. But I went out to Colorado, and we went on a family vacation, and we visited the sheltered Pueblo and Anasazi Native American shell constructions that were there that are more than 2,000 years old. And they were homes, right? They were communities. They had their kiva in the ground, what was a sacred center, and the grain was stored there. And but those were still in existence. And if those were in existence, why can't modern homes, with all of our technology, why can't our homes be in existence? And they're not built that way. They're built to be torn down, and maybe there's some wisdom in there, but I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like following that kind of wisdom. I wanted something that lasted a long time. And looking around in America, there's just not a lot of things like that. So you go and you visit Santa Fe, and there they have leftover buildings from the Pueblo people, the adobe constructs. And starting taking a look at some of those, some of them might be over 1,000 years old, a continuous build. And then the oldest city in America is St. Augustine in Florida, which is maybe 500 years old. And of course, I can go to various churches in America, and we can run into things that were brought over from the old country that are 2,000 years old. And I've seen a baptismal here in Mexico City that was probably 1,500 years old, 1,000 years old. Who knows, right at that point. But things can be built to last. And taking a look at the old world, now our large constructs, castles and civic buildings and things that were built with some level of permanence, they're massively thick, and so the wear and tear of the elements doesn't degrade them, and they last a very, very long time. And but what about houses? Like, do we find 1,000-year-old houses? And of course, in the old country, we do. And we find medieval constructs in various places. And Bath, England comes to mind, which is, a civic environment, but also has old construct. Um, and then, of course, your things in Rome and Italy, if they survived, Spain. There's many places, Germany, where there's old leftover 1,000-year-old homes, not just churches and not just civic buildings and not just palaces and castles, but homes. And that is what I'm after. I'm after the 1,000-year home. So jumping back over here to my life, I went ahead with my partner and we sold the house. And she went her way. She has kids to still raise, and I'm building a retirement home. And we'll regroup around and when we're ready with all of that. But I'm trying to build a 1,000 years home, and she's bought a house here, and she's doing a construct in one of the subdivisions that are coming up. And they're springing up like they're springing up like weeds here in Texas, and they're all the same shade of beige, and they all have the same roofs. They all have the same problems that I had with the premium home that we had built and loved. That the roof needed to be replaced the year 18, and the windows. I remember. When we sold the house, the buyers went through and said, 18 windows need to be replaced. And I said, there is no way. These are less than 20-year-old windows. And I said, I saw one fogged. And indeed, when I did a critical look, the windows didn't last 18 years. So I grew up in a house that was built in 1848 in rural Michigan, the core of it. It was obviously a pioneer home. And those windows were already 140 years and still lasting. So, the wavy glass with the metal weights and the counterweights and the construct was built to last. And I think a home can last if it's in harmony with the environment and breathes a little bit and is built with good quality materials. So jumping back over here to the States, now I've sold my home. And I've got a journal here. I can't be homeless, and that's what I found. I'm a rich homeless person. We went and visited many, many homes that had some flavor. Anything over 100 years old seemed to be owned by the termites and hardly sellable. And yet this environment was, there's a 60% housing shortage here in Central Texas. So if y'all are selling all your stuff and going to move here to Austin, Texas, you're going to be disappointed at the competitive market, and that you're going to keep getting bumped out of your bids. And I live here, and I got bumped out of my bids. But the good news is I found some land. I grew up a farm boy and never thought I'd farm again. And I found some land way outside of my budget of what I wanted to spend. But I bought that land, and it got me thinking again, returning to building a 1,000-year home, and can I do it? And the one thing that that sticks with me is the land itself will last 1,000 years, and any stone I put there, any dirt I put in there, any changes I make to the soil, good or bad, those will be there 1,000 years. And years ago, I read a story of how they were looking for Hannibal's elephant paths through the Alps into Italy, and they could track those elephant dung. That was 1,500 years, 2,000 years old, based on the number of animals that was stored in the likable path of Hannibal. So all those changes that were done by our great ancestors are still reflected in the land and can still be measured in the land. So here in Texas, everything has been pioneered up early on. Every tree we could possibly, So a lot of this, there's not much old growth here. So I bought this 30 acres. I'm real excited about it. The apartment that I'm in now is kind of I took over a lease that's going to expire in a mere 4.5 months. So I have to build a house and not be homeless. I have a responsibility to myself and my employer to not be homeless, and I have to build a house. And so the first kind of house I took a look at was an ICF house, and I built a little model. And this is modeled after the kind of things I saw from the Adobe people and the Native American people. There's a central kiva, and there's a interesting kitchen and dining room, and then bedrooms that I can add on. And but And there was a garage that was attached with a power system in between. The problem is that there's not just a housing shortage, there's a material shortage. And anytime somebody slides a ship in sideways in the Suez Canal, the entire world grinds to a halt. God forbid Panama too, canal. Who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But I'm finding it hard to find the contractors and to find the materials. So I needed to revert back to what our ancestors did. And this little book here, Build with Adobe, I love it. It was given to Frank W. Summers, MD, in 1967. And in here, when they talk about old timers in this book, they're talking about old timers. So, and I'll scan some things in. Very simplistic book, but they list, secure the building permit and about 20 steps to build a home. Do it yourself. These people, and they were stomping out the bricks themselves to make the bricks, to make the mud. I mean, what did our ancestors do, right? This book is so pleasant. It's full of old-timey pictures of the Adobe environments and the different things that the folks are doing. Some of these, I bet you, are still there. I'm part of the adventure when I do get to Santa Fe or wherever these pictures. We'll go visit these homes and see how they're holding up, and I'll do a comparative. But I've got 4.5 months from start to finish to close on property, to build a house so that I'm not homeless. My employer would not be pleased if I was trying to live out of my car. So I've got to build a house. And one of those things that I want to do is the restorative agriculture. So everything I do to the land will last 1,000 years for sure. No, I may not be able to build a 1,000-year home, but I can restore the land and do forestry agriculture, and it'll be natives, your pecans and persimmons and figs and things like that. And I'll move through this 30 acres. 15 of it is hay, and 15 of it is cedar thicket. Cedar thickets choke out everything, and we'll see that later on once I close on a house and I walk around with you, that the cedar just gets into the oaks and just strangles them, right, and takes all the moisture. And so I need to replace as many cedars as I can with something viable in the area, post oak or loblolly pine or something that's related to this. So this house will appeal to tiny home people. It'll appeal to homestead people. It'll appeal to preppers because I'm going to be off grid, 100% off grid. I'm tired of the power failing here in Texas. I'm tired of wondering whether or not I'll have heat. I'm going to build my own environment and be responsible. It doesn't mean I won't go without heat, and it doesn't mean I won't go without power, but it'll be my responsibility. I won't be dependent on other people's failures. So I'm not going to drill a well. I'm going to harvest my own rainwater, and so I'm working on that to harvest my own rainwater. So one book that I have that's really interesting, can I do this thing in 4.5 months? Close a house and do it all. So I've got a really nice book here, Adobe Build It Yourself book. So I took a look at this, Paul Graham McHenry Jr. And it's very earthy. So in here he has a checklist on planning your home, and he has week 1. All right, week 1. Let's see, clear the site. So he's starting right at ground floor. He's not fooling around. Week 1, clear the site. All right, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 12, do the painting, electrical, and cabinets. Okay, week 13, countertops. Week 14, clean the windows. Week 15, done. 15 weeks to build a house from start to finish at old Adobe. And this was before the era of AutoCAD. His drawings are all by hand. I really enjoy this book. So putting together all of these different things that I need to accomplish to be able to build a house. So there's 4 projects in this project. First is the restorative farming and putting back the land the way that it was. And the people that I bought it from, they've been really good caretakers. I bought other Texas properties where I found engines in the ground and distributors, and I destroyed like 3 mowers trying to mow this property that had axles and toxic things in the ground. And that's you'll get that in Texas, probably anywhere. And So restorative farming, that's my first project. 30 acres is 27 acres more than I wanted. It's a big deal. I'm going back to my roots. And as a kid, we weren't big time farmers. This was gentleman farming, and it will still be a gentleman farm. I'm planning to put in trees so that I can travel. If it's cattle, I got to take care of them. I got to find somebody to take care of. People are not signing up to water and feed your cattle. Although maybe the technology's improved. I might add a cow or two at a later date. But initially, restorative farming, I need to also make sure the land doesn't burn down. Then the first project will be first project the land. Second project is the house. How do I put a tiny home in there as rapidly as possible that's high quality? I'm not going to live off the grid primitively. I want to live off the grid premiumly. I left a premium house. I'm not going to build a house that's not premium. So it can be smaller, much smaller. This apartment's only 1,400 square feet, so I'm getting used to a small house. We went from 2,600 square feet to 1,400 square feet. So I'm doing that. So the way to do that, of course, is with shipping containers. And I got little HO scale shipping containers, and I'll build a model here at a later date, but HO scale. And I found that if I do a quarter inch being 2 feet, that's almost the same scale as this. So I could draw these out on grid paper, and I could model these. So I'm going to do 2 shipping containers and build a roof between them, and I'm going to do it in Adobe Santa Fe Mission style. So when you're done with it, it won't look like the ultra mod houses at all. And we talked earlier about the cattle. See, I got some cattle put on my little mini farm, and look, I got some horses to put on my little mini farm. And I even got together with my partner, and we picked out all of the people that we're going to have on a mini farm. Look, I've got me, partner, I've got my daughter visiting, my redheaded daughter, I've got my grandson. Looky, I got all everybody, all these folks on this thing. So I'll build that model later, and we'll enjoy that. But 4.5 months from getting the land, doing a site prep, putting out the containers, adding the off the grid solar. I'm going to do off-the-grid water harvesting. I'm not drilling a well. I'm going to do water grid. I'm also going to drill a well in the sky. So that'll be good for people who want to know how to condense water from the sky. So not only will I just capture rainwater, but I'll actually be making between 2 and 8 gallons of pure, clean water every day, right from the atmosphere. So which I believe is the way of the future. And then all of this is have built some homes in the past, and I've done some work like along in the construction. But my degree is in electronic commerce, and I'm a cloud engineer. So I'm stretching here, but I'm a fairly handy man. So container home, I got a good book on a container home, and then timber frame. As I log out the cedar, I'm going to use those cedar myself. I'm going to mill my own wood. I'm going to use the cedar for supports and structures. I'm going to do the engineering on that. Various adobe homes, and then planting, let's see, off-grid solar. So then I'll have the water, I'll have the off-grid solar system. All these adventures will be in there. And then, of course, it's not a small home. It's going to be 1,500 square feet. But the construct will appeal to the people that do the tiny homes, as well as those who want to do homesteading and container homes. There's just a lot of goodness in this world right now. So even in the middle of this, a lot of shortages, it's hard for me to get things. When I find something, I buy it. And I'm trying to make that house a premium home. And when I'm done, every decision I make will be 1,000-year decision. Now, I know I can't buy a 1,000-year window, right? But they dig 1,000-year glass out of the graves all the time as graves offerings from Romans. So I know glass can last 1,000 years. So, and I was in a farmhouse where the windows were already 140 years old, and they're still fully functional. So it can be done. I'm going to try to do that. So let's say a window can last 200 years in a frame before the frame has to be replaced in wood. Well, now you're talking about replacing windows just 5 times in the life of a residency. Now that is 1,000 years homes. As long as the bones, the structure around it is a solid structure and can endure the test of time, then indeed whoever lives in the house 1,000 years from now should be able to have a 1,000-year home. And I'm going to build all of the electrical so it can be accessed with conduit. I'm going to make sure the plumbing can be accessed because the tunnelers under my house, my new house, was a major pain in the butt. And but if everything had been accessible, it could have been easily fixed, easily renovated, easily taken care of. And even if a foundation sinks a little bit, if you build a house where you can get to it and you can pick it back up without damaging the existing copper, without damaging the existing electric, you can put the house back square and level, fix the cracks, and the house can keep going. It's when we design these houses as throwaway decisions for maximum dollars and maximum greed without any concern to the future and kids that will come behind us. That's when we build things that can't last and won't last and as little value as possible for the future generations. So 1,000-year home. This is not an educational channel. This is simply me doing a journal because I'm doing all of this in 4.5 months. I'm not going to be able to do detailed plans. I'm not going to be able to do a lot of work. It's the funny thing is, you know, I've reverted to paper, and I'm a cloud engineer, and I work on computers all day long. I've reverted to paper because an idea will come up, and I don't want to log in. I just want to write it down. So there's a velocity here that's extremely fast, and but I want to make every decision be a lasting decision. And that's what this adventure is. I'm not going to be overly educational. I'm planning to do some affiliate links and maybe sell the things that I use that I know works. I'm going all green. So I'm trying to get rid of all of the, except the tractor. The tractor will be diesel. But I've even gone with the brand new Ford that's the 7.2 kilowatts vehicle. We'll talk about that adventure. So I'm going all green. I'm going to harvest my own water. I'm going to go back to gentleman farming, some chickens, and a little bit of nature, but mostly fruits and nuts and things that grow over a seasonal thing. That's what I'm after. And it will be a good homestead adventure for those that like that. And if you do happen to pick up something along the way, then I'll be real happy and proud of that as well. And I want to thank you for joining. Again, my name is Stephen Paul West, and welcome aboard to this adventure.